Welcome back to the Citizen channel. Hope you're all staying safe and well. And our continuing look, this is an epic, guys. We haven't got any, but I'll keep on looking at it. Of course, we're going to continue our look at Manchester City's wonderful, rich, brilliant, unrivaled, in my opinion, history from 1880. So we got up to the 70s. Oh, yeah, I was going to say the swinging 70s, and that was the 60s, wasn't it? The punk, what was it? The glam rock 70s, perhaps we'll call it. Yeah, we got up to 1972. 73. Yours truly was, yes, very dyed in the wool, of course. By this time, been going to main role for a few years now, by 72, 73. Yeah, and we finished off 1971-72, where City sort of threw away the chance of a second title in 5 years, and also threw away one of the greatest managers in our history. On the pitch, an improvement on 70-71, of course. 71-72 was, as far as league position and players like Willie Donachie came through. Tony Towers was proving his worth as well. And yet again, there was optimism, of course, for 72-73 after, say, a slightly disappointing 71-72. But fallout, of course, from the loss of Joe Mercer was still to cast this dark, long shadow over City for this upcoming season. An interesting twist of fate there as well this season. And we would lose, of course, the other half of our history management team, our historical management team of those days, the glory years back in those days as well. So personally, this season, you would see yours truly attending his first ever away game this season. Of course, either going on the football special trains or on the Finland's coach at the time, SMC Holt, Finland's SMC Holt. Not sure where he used to catch it. We used to catch it from all over the place. I never went to the Finland's garage that much, that's for sure. And with my big mate at the time, I went to most of the games within the 70s, Chris from Parswood High School, where I was. Off the pitch, of course, the new North Stand now had seats, yes, 7,800 seats. So the capacity was down a little bit of the ground. It had actually held 20,000 spectators potential the season before, the new North Stand standing. But now, obviously, with the seats, we lost over 12,000 capacity. And it cost 70p, so it cost the princely sum of 70p to sit in them, compared to 40p to stand in the Kipax in those days. Paul Todd, yeah, remember Paul Todd? Every young City fan was jealous of Paul Todd at that time. I was a little bit too old, perhaps, but obviously when he first kicked on the scene, I was about 10 or 11 years old. I would have loved to fit into his boots, but he'd hung up his mascot boots. Yeah, sadly for young City fans everywhere, City decided not to replace him, not to go forward with a mascot. So that left a lot of young City fans very disappointed. We were invited again, not because we won anything particular, to play in that season's opening Charity Shield match in a funky red and blue diagonal strip on a white background. We would have at least have some silverware because we won 1-0 against Aston Villa at Villa Park on the 5th of August, and it was a case of Lee Pen that one, where he actually scored from the penalty spot to give us that 1-0 win. We will go on to wear four different kits this season, as well as that red and blue on a white background. We also had blue with a red and white sash across it as well, which we actually wore that season to complement, of course, the red and black stripes, and of course our normal home kit of sky blue and white. Season opener was a trip, not the easiest in the world, to Anfield, a combative affair, a bit of a, not the greatest game to watch, but unfortunately we went down 2-0 with this. Both Wyn Davies and Larry Lloyd were sent off for this one for fisticuffs, and there wasn't that many, although obviously there was lots of trouble on the pitch. It was quite rare, certainly quite rare for two players to be sent off. The refs used to put up with a lot in those days, so it must have been really bad for both those guys to be sent off. And Alisson, of course, was a manager. Joe Mercer had gone, as I mentioned earlier. We'd lost that half of this wonderful partnership. Alisson was still upbeat despite a defeat at home against Liverpool's Merseyside neighbours Everton in the very next and very first home game of the season at Main Road. He claimed his 18-man squad was the strongest in the First Division, and he was possibly right. So no excuses then, Malcolm? Well, he would have some, of course, or he wouldn't have time to give them, I don't think, this season. He could be his own worst enemy sometimes, old Malcolm Alisson. Malcolm wrote he expected Ian Mellor, Derek Jeffries and Tony Towers to be accepted as top class players by the end of this season. And his starting 11 for these first two games was Corrigan, Buck, Donaghy, Doyle, Booth, Bell, Summerby, Lee, Davis, Marsh and Tony Towers. And the only other players to make any sort of significant appearances that season from that squad he had were Alan Oakes, Colin Barrett and keeper Ron Healy. So they were the only ones really to add to that. There's obviously other players popped in and out as well. We'll mention a couple as we're going through this. Finally, in the third game of the season, after defeats to Liverpool and Everton, the Merseyside guys, we had our first victory against Norwich City, who actually would struggle all season. Then a 3-0 win with 2 from Lee and a Bell goal certainly eased the pressure, but it was only temporary. Yeah, it wasn't going to be the greatest start. We would then have 3 away games, losing them all against Derby, Chelsea and Palace. I think the fixture guys weren't very kind to us on that one. By match day 7, that's what we call it now, isn't it? By match day 7 and a home game with Leicester City on the 2nd of September, we sat bottom. We sat bottom of the first division, only 2 points from 6 games. Malcolm would visit that sort of problem again in the future, wouldn't he? It didn't help them much that United were actually next to bottom. They were only 1 point ahead of us, United, but it didn't make any real consolation to City fans. And a Marsh goal in a 1-0 win was very welcome in that game against Leicester City. Yep, so away from the league, well, we progressed in the League Cup with a 4-0 win at Main Road over local rivals Rochdale. There you go, we played Rochdale. That was the first and up to the 22-23 season, our only ever competitive meeting between Manchester City and Rochdale. Anyway, so we'll visit that again one day in one of my other little vlogs I do. A Marsh, Brace and a Bell and Lee were the scorers for that 4-0 win over Rochdale. We were also back in Europe, with the UEFA Cup. Obviously, we failed to win the title a season before, but we got into the UEFA Cup. And on the 13th of September, played Valencia, however you pronounce that. They were actually runners-up to Real Madrid the previous season, so a pretty good team. And, of course, we played these in the first leg of the UEFA Cup. The week before, Alisson and Johnny Hart, who was his right-hand man there, were left impressed as they watched Valencia beat Atletico Madrid 3-1, and they were managed by the great legend footballing them to become a managing legend of sorts, Alfredo Di Stefano. 21,698 turned up for a disappointing 2-2 draw with the Spanish side, and despite Marsh scoring over in the return leg at their place, a 2-1 defeat put City out 4-3 on aggregate. So our European journey had finished really before it had begun. Even worse, on October the 3rd, League Cup third round, we'd dumped old Rochdale out, hadn't they? But we were drawn at Gig Lane. We were drawn away to Bury, and they dumped us out of that 2-0. So to much joy from Bury fans, of course, but football in general, of course, we all like a giant killing, don't we? But to lose 2-0 at Bury at Gig Lane was very disappointing. Off the pitch, one of Alisson's squad members of his 18 squad had switched to Old Trafford, for about £60,000 as Wyn Davies swapped Manchester for Trafford. I think that would be a record for quite a while, that 60,000. I think it may have been bettered only by Tony Colton many years later as far as transfer fees between the two clubs are concerned. And despite quickly being out of 2 cups, at least by the end of October, we'd moved up to 17th. We were getting a nosebleed, guys. We moved up to 17th spot and slightly better league form from now with 12 points from 15 games and a 0-0 draw at Highbury at the end of October. The next 3 games saw 3 more victories against Derby at home 4-0, Everton away 3-2 and a 3-0 win over United at Main Road in front of 52,086. And a Buchan own goal added to a couple from Colin Bell in that one. This win left City, we were climbing the table. This win left City in an okay 13th spot. Not unlucky for some, well, it probably would be, after 18 games on 18 points. So don't forget, it was only 2 points for a win in those days, 1 point for a draw. So that left us 13th after 18 games on 18 points. So please, that's the end of part 1. Join me back in part 2 when Stan Gibson, our legendary groundsman, has a new toy to play with. a first of 2 promotions for Mr. Johnny Hart, and of course hopes of a good FA Cup run to sort of compensate for a sort of average league tilt at the moment. So please join me for part 2. Hope you enjoyed that. Any memories of you remember of what we've talked about, give us a shout. It'd be great to hear back from you, and thank you for your support. Please, till we meet again. I know that's one thing, don't I? Please stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.